I heard you had a conversation with Ida.
Yes, Ida is Lovy's first wife. She's incredible, right? She was a star in her own right and can sing and she's beautiful and all the things. And she is the person that was his wife. I started Revelation Church with him. And throughout the course of time, as you can see, Ida is no longer the wife, right? They got a divorce. And when I spoke up and spoke out, I think she called June 13th, she called and we had a nice little chat. Lovy does a really great job of telling you a narrative and you believe it. And of course, I she used to sit behind me in church. So I sat in the second row, she sat in the third row, and right behind me, her and her parents. And she was always so sweet to me. We would always turn around and chat with each other. And so I'm hearing the things that he's telling me about her, but I'm meeting this woman sitting right behind me. And I'm like, stuff just isn't adding up, you know? But one thing about being in deception, you can never really put the pieces together. The answer is right in front of you, but you can't see it. And so fast forward into, last week or 10 days ago, when I find out she wants to speak to me, and she essentially just like rewires years of everything I'd ever thought about her or known about the church or known about Maggie or known about Eubert Angel or known about Lovy's, any and everything. Like the biggest thing that, she poured out and said was like, I want an apology. I want him to say sorry for everything that he has done to me, for every word that he has said about me, for the way that he has treated me, for the way that he has portrayed me. I'll tell you what he said to me as a girlfriend. He told me that she was very sick and that she was dying. He told me that she was a drunkard. He told me that she tried to keep Andrew from him. He told me that he had to fight tooth and nail to get Andrew. He told me that him and Andrew were on the street, essentially living in like their studio because they didn't have anywhere else to go during that divorce time. It was just him and his son trying to make it through. I can confirm by Ida's word. If Ida is lying, then Ida is lying. But Ida said none of that is true. Absolutely zero. And so when you hear him saying, and my ex-wife is going to sue you, she expressed to me her disgust for Lovy very colorfully. And I'm like trying not to, and she thanked me for coming out. So to hear someone say, and my ex-wife is going to sue you, and your ex-wife is thanking me, they're not adding up. The two things don't add up. And for her to, we're asking, well, why won't you come forward? Why won't you talk? Because she's so funny. She's like, and if I talk, I'll shut this whole beep down. I'll shut all this beep down. Like nobody, whatever. And she's just like, I just want my family to
I
be
mean,
whole, to
I
be.
ask a
Mhm,
question. Sorry for interjecting. He,
mhm,
we still see her mother-in-law at the church,
mhm,
or Ida's mother at the church. We seen Ida at the
mhm,
church.
mhm,
There's this presentation that they're
mhm.
good, they're in good standing. Like, what's happening there?
So she is very protective over her son, which is another very false narrative that they spew. Maggie likes to spew this narrative that that's her son and that's her child and she's raising her, Andrew and all these things. And while I'm not saying she's not contributing to his well-being, Ida is very involved in her son's life. And so she comes to that church to make sure that Andrew still sees his other side of the family, like to make sure that he knows like, you're not just here left to things that are not things that are not whole. Like you still have a pure, true family that loves you and that cares about you. And come hell or high water, like you're going to see my face here. You're going to have my presence here and I'm your mom. And I always think back to, I'll never forget Father's Day 2021 when Drew came on stage and he gave Lovy a present. It was like a drawing or something like that he made. And Ida walks out of her seat and she walks past Maggie up into that front row and looks at Maggie and hands Drew this card that he then gives to Lovy on Father's Day. And that was essentially like her claim to be like in front of the church, this is my son, because that's that's all she gets. I honestly don't know why there is this all out assault to erase her from the public eye of who she is to Drew. But she loves her son. She's expressed to me multiple times when we were on the phone, like there has never been a time where my son was hungry. I didn't feed him. No matter if I have the energy to do it or not, I make sure my son has a stomach full of food. My son, she was like saying that her son wanted something for his birthday, some expensive pair of shoes. She made sure she found a way to get it to him. But that just entire narrative, I had to fight for my kids. Da, da, da. She expressed vividly that she didn't want any sort of fight. she just wanted it to be a clean cut because that's just how she operated. She didn't want there to be any beef. She didn't want anything to stand in the way. She didn't want her son to resent him or her if there was a struggle. So yeah, that whole narrative is just, it's to be a dramatic thing. And if you listen to that thing that he does in the brown suit where he says, and as a black man in America making sure we got our kids, he plays out this like emotional trope to get people to sympathize with him. That's what I did when he was coming after me, and I heard all the horrendous things about Ida and how she talked to him and how she abused him and all these things, how she was a drunk. I was like, oh my God, this monster. Like, I just want to protect you. I just want to protect him. But that's not true. First of all, Lovey, you ain't black. You're not a black man in America. I hate to break it to you. And second of all, it wasn't no struggle for you to get custody of your kid. That's not true, according to Ida.
Hello, Jenny. God bless you. Thank you, Jenny Weaver. Just put a comment
Hey, Jenny.
in the. I don't
And
even
if
know.
you're wondering why this is important, it's important because we are trying to help you realize that nothing this man says is the truth, right? Coming down from the ways that he interprets scripture and is telling people that God said this, God said that, down to even the things he says about his own ex-wife. None of it is true. It is all a lie.
I mean,
It's
so
all a
they're
lie.
saying that she is an alcoholic, right? She's an alcoholic, and what's that? What's going on there?
She goes, Sherridan, I am not an alcoholic. She was like, I literally would have a glass of wine like anybody else, occasionally have a glass of wine. She even talks about a time where her and Maggie, her spiritual daughter at the time, let me repeat that. When her and Maggie, her spiritual daughter at the time, went to out to eat, and Ida ordered a glass of wine like a lovely lady, and then Maggie went and snitched on Ida about getting the wine to Lovy. And then they got into a big blow up out of it. But she has never been an excessive drinker, according to her. She said nobody can back that claim up. Does she like to have a drink or two? Does she enjoy the liberties of being a Christian and being able to consume wine? Yeah, she does. But during their marriage, she was never a drunkard, according to Ida.
During the marriage, she wasn't a drunkard, but after the things she went through, then
Mm,
the that became what,
bias.
yeah, the vice.
Yeah.
Did she say anything about what was her claim about Eubert Angel?
Eubert Angel was the reason why she had to divorce Lovy and that Lovy had to marry Maggie.
Okay,
Full stop.
okay,
She said that her husband, because she still refers to him as her husband. She said, my husband did not want to leave me. My husband had no desire to leave me. It was Eubert Angel that said Maggie's the person that's supposed to be the wife, all out of nowhere. When Maggie started coming around and she started putting her claws into him, and she said, I sat Maggie down and I told her what's what. And then she sat Lovey down and said, you don't see what's going on here, but I see these women trying to come for you. Da 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 da. And he was just so enthralled with Eubert and wanted to be like Eubert. And, whenever he says, God told me, yeah, he's talking about Eubert Angel. It's the same thing marrying Maggie. He called me on the phone and said, the fathers told me to do this. But then when he'll talk to other people, he'll say, God said. That was the conversation I had with him post marriage to Maggie, that he didn't want to do it, but the fathers told him to. So do I believe Ida in that? Yes, because he told me from his own mouth that the fathers made him marry Maggie and he didn't want to. And every woman that has come out has said the same thing.
okay. It's so many questions, right? It's so many
Mhm.
questions. You talked about Ida a bit. You talked about some other things, which if you want to hear that, you can go on Sheridan's YouTube channel directly and listen to it, or you can go on Wake Up Church Now if you want to hear YouTube, if you want to hear the last week's live stream.
And what's sad too is she expressed her demeanor as not someone to just go out and wah 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 wah. So she's just sitting there listening to this man. First of all, she was very hurt learning some of the things of the specifics of our relationship, like the coming to America thing. That was something that they were supposed to do together. They were going to have a coming to America 10-year anniversary theme. And that was the movie that him and I were watching when, whatever was happening, we were happening. And then she talked about, the black Mercedes, and she remembered that car. And she even talked about how she was still dealing with him when him and Maggie were supposedly officially together. She's very open about her timeline mixing in even with Maggie's timeline. So it's a lot. It was just a lot. She even just spoke about like the spiritual implications, and you played that first part where he said where he talks about how there was a woman that laid a hand on his son and he said, don't do that, or XYZ. And she talked about that. She talked about how he had done, how she believes that he had done an evil practices on her spiritual mother and why her health declined and her, eventually passing away.
My question is, if she were to come out and speak up, what would be the punishment?
She's just afraid she won't get to see her son.
Okay, so there is a
She's,
repercussion. Like he would make he allegedly, according to her, if she speaks up, if she speaks out, he would not let her
I mean,
see
she didn't say he won't let me have my son. She did not say that. She said, I'm staying quiet for my son.
for my son. Good.
So I'm just using context clues and assuming there's some sort of threat. She also expressed that he's a very strong temper, and I've seen literally like phone dents in the wall when I've been at Campo Road. I'm just gonna assume allegedly from what I know, him throwing things at the wall. He's told me stories about him throwing things in his marriage with Ida. So I I believe her when she talks about the temper. I've seen his temper firsthand as well. So she's just saying I think it's best for me to stay silent. She does not like Lovy from what she's told me. Like, yes, she believes that he is under manipulation and deception, and she's praying that he will repent and that all that stuff will leave him. But who he is right now, she's like, I don't know this guy. That guy is not the guy that I married. That is not the guy that I started this church with. Even the story of who gave the name Revelation. She's like, I was like, yeah, he said that Jesus Christ gave him that name. And she's like, no, I gave him that name. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Everybody knows that Jesus Christ gave him the name Revelation Church, gave him the mandate. And she goes, excuse me, no, I gave him that name. And so it's just like from the small, like you don't have to, why lie about that? You know what I mean? Why is that a lie that you want to come up with so bad? God forbid someone that gave birth to your child helped in your ministry. Oh my gosh, like he's just always trying to wipe and erase her out. The very house that this started at is her parents' house. But when you go to that church and you see that little wall of everything that they have, she's completely erased. You just see Maggie. It's scary work.